Maybe you've heard the story about the two little boys that were always running into trouble around their church. So one day, after there were several statues and items missing, they were called in to see the priest. And while they were sitting there outside, the door opened and the priest asked the first one to come in and sit down. Well, he was pretty scary looking, this big priest, awesome in all of his black. And he leaned over and looked at the little boy and he said, "Do you know where God is?" Well, the little boy in terror got up and jumped up and went out and slammed the door, grabbed his friend and said, "Let's get out of here because now they think we have taken God." Well, we may laugh, but where is God? Where has God gone? How do we know? How can we touch base with this that is talked about and used so much in language but seldom is seen? Well, most people think by going to church or some organized religion, but not necessarily so, because many of the greatest spiritual teachers in all of history were not people who were really inside of any organized religion, but pretty much operated outside of it. The Buddha, for example, everything he could have wanted in the higher caste of the ancient Hindu religion, but he left it. And on his journey, he found enlightenment and became a great teacher. Jesus himself, the so-called leader, founder of the Christian religion, pretty much always operated outside of the organized Judaism of his day. In fact, many say it was the leaders of that cult that killed him because he was such a threat to their system, to their religion. And so it is how that throughout the centuries, leadership has emerged from suddenly out of nowhere and has led people into kinds of great reawakening, revivals, so to speak. Organized religion also can be quite dangerous because it becomes so exclusive and thinks of itself as so special. Over just the history of the Christian religion for the past 1700 centuries, millions of people have been exterminated, killed, excommunicated, burned at the stake because they did not obey their creeds and what they felt God said, as was said in their very book. So sometimes it can become very, very dangerous. So how do we find God? How do we find religion? Maybe you'll get some in an organized ritual or church. Certainly the outward manifestation can be inspiring in the music and the architecture and some great talks. But how do we get inside of us? How do we have that touched with something that it is beyond ourselves, that goes with us all the time wherever we are? Well, I think we learned something from perhaps the Korean model. Years ago, I was in San Francisco studying one summer, and we had several Korean students. And we used to talk about how we perceived our call to be a religious leader, a religious professional, spiritual teacher. They used to laugh at us, saying, well, you go to schools and you get good grades and pass all the tests, and then you are told you have a call. Sort of an oversimplification. But I was very impressed on how they said if a young person in their system, in their country of Korea, felt a call to ministry, he was sent off to a mountain for a month or two to be with an older member as a mentor or a guard. And after several weeks of being alone there, away from people, just with wilderness, if he still felt the call and felt a connection, then they thought he had a valid, perhaps, career ahead of him. I find that so important in my own life. It's not just in passing academia that makes us feel the presence of God's leadership and touch in our lives, but it's something that comes from within ourselves. It's like we leave our church, we leave our family, maybe not literally, but part of it physically and intellectually, to do that, to find out who we are and what really is God meaning to our lives. When we were first married, Naomi and I had a little Cocker Spaniel dog, and she grew up and she had puppies. She nursed and whelped them for 6 or 7 weeks, and finally, after a time of being very protective, and you didn't go near those puppies without getting clearance from Frosty, was the dog's name, Suddenly now, when the dog came to suckle, she just would bark and chase it away, saying, it's time to go out and find on your own sources of food and life. It's the same way with children, same way with us growing up. We become so accustomed to our church, our institutions, our families. It's like we need to be pushed to go out and find out who we are on our own, what psychologists and behaviorists called our individuation. And it's there alone, seeking out of that desire for a presence of God, that we can be touched, we can be blessed. That's my own journey. That's a journey of so many in sacred scriptures that we see, and even our own and others that are with us. So what's the test? If I've gone to the mountain, or I've gone out on my own and waited and been still, how do I know it? Well, some of the leaders, and I would say, you know it when you've been touched. You've been overwhelmed with a sense of oneness, a sense of unity with everything, everybody, every living being. It's like nothing else can satisfy. It's like that you, the little wave, are suddenly now a part of this expansive ocean of life, and we're home. How do you know it's true? It's how do you treat other people when you return? Do you treat your neighbor, your spouse, your family with love and forgiveness? Do you face problems in the test of life with sort of a equanimity which is developed? I know not all at once. You may have to go back and back some more of that spiritual food. But in time, if it's authentic and genuine, you will have peace. You will have joy that no one can take away. It's like being resurrected from the dead, from the normal pattern of this world. That's what the stories of resurrection mean in scriptures, in the old, what we call the Old Testament and the New. When Jesus raised people from the dead, when he raised himself from the dead, it was like coming awake to life again. That's what it means. The Course in Miracles that I love so much is not a book about physical miracles, but it's about awakening, coming to life, that which was once dead. A few years ago, I heard a story about a great golfer down in Argentina. His name was Ian Chenzo. He was a great winner that year, back in the mid 2005, 2006. And he won a tournament which would have catapulted him into perhaps international fame. While he was taking his purse, which was $700,000 or $800,000 in Argentina money, he was going to his car. And a woman which was obviously poor and decrepit and in need of care with a little baby came and begged, and she said, could I have some money? My baby's sick and we have no place to stay. Could you please loan me some or give me some? Well, he pulled the whole check out, endorsed it, and gave it to her. And off she went. Well, the next day, the news report came that she was a fake, that she had just fooled him. And so everybody made fun of Ian, saying, you just threw away your money. Somebody really took you. And he said, well, if she could use it in some way, I'm just so glad, because I really didn't need it. I didn't need it. An enlightened person knows that they are free. They become unattached to that which can drag us down, load us up, and make us unhappy. Where is God? God is in our hearts, in our minds. It's in our essence, in who we really are. Go out, find him, feel him, and live in that love and freedom.